everyone, and thank you for coming to our discussion of Playing to Win, how strategy really works. If you've watched my previous videos, you know how this goes. I introduce the book, I give a timeline on about how long it's going to take to read, and then I go through and mark all the wonderful goodness in the book and I share it with you guys. So to get started, I will go through each chapter and just highlight the points that really stood out to me. But first, I will start with an overall, my feelings overall towards the book. I really truly believe that this book can be used as an influence for anyone, no matter which industry you're in, or whether you're, like I said in the introduction, an employee or an employer or a nonprofit. I feel that this book, even though the stories are from corporate America like P&G, you can still take the logic and the ideas that they're using and tweak them to fit what you're doing. So I definitely learned quite a bit. The introduction, how strategy really works. There's an author that they mention quite a bit in this book. His name is Mike Porter, and he's the author of Competitive Strategy. And he defines strategy as, strategy is an integrated set of choices that uniquely positions the firm in its industry as to create sustainable advantage and superior value relative to the competition. So even though this is talking about a firm and strategy, just twist it and it can be you positioning yourself as an employee or positioning yourself in starting a new business. Not only is strategy possible in times of tumultuous change, but it can be a competitive advantage and a source of significant value creation. Sameness isn't strategy. It is a recipe for mediocrity. Choose to win rather than simply play. Strategy is a coordinated and integrated set of 5 choices: a winning aspiration, where to play, how to win, core capabilities, and management systems. Those 5 choices are what really guide this book, and it goes through each in detail. Chapter 1, strategy is choice. In chapter 1, it really goes over Oil of Olay and how they were a dated company, they had a poor price point, they were for the older woman, and they completely rebranded, which is now Olay, and they rebranded for 35 and older age range. They really went to R&D, research and development, to develop a formula that would fight more than just one sign of aging, more than just wrinkles, dark spots, pigmentation, etc. So they began to advertise in the same magazines and the same television shows as those populated by more expensive brands, because they wanted to be seen in that realm. So just like if you want to be seen in a certain realm, then you should be doing the same things as those people or those product types that are in there. So then it has the 5 questions. What is your winning aspiration? The purpose of your enterprise, its motivating aspiration. Where will you play? A playing field where you can achieve that aspiration. How will you win? The way you will win on the chosen playing field. What capabilities must be in place? The set of configuration of capabilities required to win in the chosen way. What management systems are required? The systems and measurements that enable the capabilities and support the choices. A company must seek to win in a particular place and in a particular way. Aspirations are statements about the future. And if you have a statement of purpose, make sure it's concise and actionable. The winning aspiration broadly defines the scope of the firm's activities. Where to play and how to win define the specific activities of the organization. To determine how to win, an organization must decide what will enable it to create unique value and sustainably deliver that value to customers in a way that is distinct from the firm's competitors. Another really great example they give is the software company Linux. They're comparable to Microsoft, Mac, and they really wanted to have a larger market share, but they couldn't break in because companies were more likely to go with a market leader. So they started to just give their software away for free to gain market share. And instead of making money on the software, they actually made revenue on the services that they provide. So that's a little play on how to win choices and where to play. They knew where they wanted to play, but how are they going to win? Well, they chose to give it away for free. Chapter 2, what is winning? What does winning look like for this organization? What specifically is its strategic aspiration? You cannot just play to participate, you have to play to win. This chapter goes on, if you enter an industry or you set out to do something just to play or participate, it's not sustainable for the long term. You have to go in wanting to dominate and wanting to really win, not just to play in the sandbox with the others. Winning aspirations should be crafted with the consumer explicitly in mind. The most powerful aspirations will always have the consumer rather than the product at the heart of them. When setting winning aspirations, you must look at all competitors and not just at those you know best. Without explicit where to play and how to win choices connected to the aspirations, a vision is frustrating and ultimately unfulfilling for employees. Define winning in your context, connecting to a deeper idea of what the organization exists to do. Chapter 3, where to play. A company may choose to play in a crowded field or in one with a dominant competitor if the company can bring new and distinctive value. It wasn't a matter of avoiding a playing field that held a fierce competitor. It was about expanding the playing field to make room for the two competitors and creating time to gain momentum. When it talks about expanding the playing field, it really goes into detail about if you're choosing an industry that's already heavily saturated, you can really still go into that industry if you expand the playing field. So if you offer a differentiated product or do something a different way, instead of trying to maybe take market share from someone, you could expand the market share. And this can be interpreted in many different ways, not with just trying to sell a product, perhaps selling yourself or an idea you have. It is tempting to think that you have no choice in where to play because it makes for a great excuse for mediocre performance. It is not easy to change playing fields, but it is doable and can make all the difference. So if it's not working, change it. Who says you're set in anything? Where to play choices are equally about where not to play. There is no point in trying to capture all segments you can't. Don't try. I think that's a great point. We can't do everything, so it's best to choose an area and really go with it and try to be the expert in that area. Chapter 4. How to win. Winning means providing a better consumer and customer value equation than your competitors do, and providing it on a sustainable basis. A strong where to play choice is only valuable if it is supported by a robust and actionable how to win choice. Do consider how to win in concert with where to play. The choices should be mutually reinforcing, creating a strong strategic core for the company. Don't assume that the dynamics of an industry are set and immutable. The choices of the players within those industries may be creating the dynamics. Industry dynamics might be changeable. Do set the rules of the game and play the game better if you're winning. Change the rules of the game if you're not. Determine whether a product innovation is really brand specific or ultimately category generic. So for instance, category generic, let's take dish soap, and you have that some dish soaps are moisturizing for your hands. And you are gonna go in and say, oh, well, my dish soap has 2 times the moisturizer. Well, having moisturizer in the dish soap is category generic, because if there shifts of demand for your dish soap with 2 times the moisture, your competitors can just add 2 times the moisture. So you want to come up with ideas that are brand specific, that really speak to you and not to just a generic category. Chapter 5, play to your strengths. The 5 capabilities core to P&G's where to play and how to win choices are consumer understanding, brand building, innovation, go-to-market ability, and global scale. An organization's core capabilities are those activities that, when performed at the highest level, enable the organization to bring its where to play and how to win choices to life. Rather than starting with capabilities and looking for ways to win with those capabilities, you need to start with setting aspirations and determining where to play and how to win. So another great point that I'm not going to read, but I will point out, is on page 127. I believe that that page is very important. So take a look at it. It explains, oh, I won't even go into it. Just take a look. Don't settle for a generic activity system. Work to create a distinctive system that reflects the choices you've made. Do play to your own unique strengths. Do be honest about the state of your capabilities, asking what will be required to keep and attain capabilities you require. Chapter 6, manage what matters. Chapter 6 goes into a lot about communication and how, when you're talking with others, how you can keep other people from going on the defensive and other people from simply just carrying away from maybe challenging you on an idea because of the way you might say something. So here's where it talks about different ways to say things. I have a view worth hearing, but I may be missing something. So you're opening up the conversation to let someone else give you input. It sounds to me like your argument is this. To what extent does that capture your argument accurately? It sounds like you think this acquisition is a bad idea. I'm not sure I understand how you got there. Could you tell me more? These kinds of phrases, which blend advocacy and inquiry, can have a powerful effect on the group dynamic. Inquiry leads the other person to genuinely reflect and hear your advocacy rather than ignoring it and making their own advocacy in response. So having both of those two keys in there can really help open a conversation and not have you or the other person simply just shut down. 3 points that are very important. Number 1, make the consumer the boss. Win the consumer value equation and win the 2 most important moments of truth. And for P&G, the 2 moments of truth were when they saw the product in the store and the first time they used it. So think about what your 2 moments of truth would be. If aspirations are to be achieved, capabilities developed, and management systems created, progress needs to be measured. Measurement provides focus and feedback. Focus comes from an awareness that outcomes will be examined and success or failure noted, creating a personal incentive to perform well. Feedback comes from the fact that measurement allows the comparison of expected outcomes with actual outcomes and enables you to address strategic choices accordingly. Self-explanatory. If you're not keeping metrics, how do you know if you're progressing or not? It's always great to measure things. And then on page 155, we have management systems and measures, do's and don'ts. I think that's great. I will not read all of those. Power of simplicity and clarity. I found that clear, simpler strategy have the best chance of winning. I explicitly placed the consumer at the center of it all. I started with consumers because the purpose of a business is to create consumers and to serve them better than anyone else can. No consumers, no business. Chapter 7. Think through strategy. This goes into the different tools that you have for research and trying to develop your strategy, like a SWOT analysis, a growth matrix, a 9-box matrix. And I was reading all of that thinking it would all be great, and then I was sort of smacked in the face when it said, instead of picking and choosing among these tools, companies need to develop a more directed approach that can be applied to make where to play and how to win choices across contexts. Number 1, the industry. 2, customers. 3, relative position. 4, competition. Is there some competitive response that could undermine or trump the where to play and how to win choices? You can't know for sure what a competitor will or won't do in the face of your actions, but forming a thoughtful hypothesis is important. It is far better to ask what your competitors will likely do before you proceed than to simply wait and see what happens. A strategy that only works if competitors continue to do exactly what they're already doing is a dangerous strategy. So don't fall into that trap there. An example was P&G. They went into international dish soap, and at the time, in the international developing markets, they only had a watered down version. So P&G wanted to create a concentrated version in a smaller bottle, being more convenient. So they thought of every avenue of what they could do if how the competitor would respond. And in the end, they released the concentrated version And what they did was they expanded the market. And while their competitors did release a concentrated version as well, they had still expanded the market enough to gain a substantial amount of market share. First, look to understand the industry in which you play or will play, its distinct segments and their relative attractiveness. What do channel and end consumers truly want, need, and value? And how do those needs fit with your current or potential offerings? Can you be a differentiator or a cost leader? Consider competition. What will your competitors do in the face of your actions? Do look beyond your current understanding of the industry. Push to generate new ways of segmenting the market. Don't expect either the channel or the end consumer to tell you what constitutes value. That is your job to figure out. Do explore a range of possible competitive reactions to your choices and ask under what conditions competitors could block you from winning. Chapter 8, Shorten Your Odds. Building a strategy isn't about achieving perfection, it's about shortening your odds. The process for choosing between possibilities for where to play and how to win. First, frame a choice. Second, explore possibilities to broaden the set of mutually exclusive possibilities. Third, for each possibility, ask what would have to be true for this to be a great idea, using the logic flow framework to structure your thinking. Fourth, determine which of the conditions is the least likely to actually hold true. Fifth, design tests against those crucial barriers to choice. Sixth, conduct tests. Finally, in light of the outcome of the tests and how those outcomes stack up against predetermined standards of proof, select the best strategic choice possibility. So it actually gives you a chart here on what page is this? 193. And this chart, at first all this can sound very overwhelming and you're like, geez, where do I start and how do I finish? But once you read this example and see how everything's laid out, you realize it's actually not that hard, and if you just follow the example, you can just write your own. Now we're on the conclusion. Eventually, companies without winning strategies die. For your company, ask and honestly answer, have you defined winning? Have you decided where to play to win? Have you determined how specifically you'll win? Have you pinpointed and built your core capabilities? Do your management systems and key measures support other 4 strategic choices? So then we have aspirations are not strategy. Strategy is the answer to all 5 questions in the choice cascade. 6 telltale signs of a winning strategy. Page 215, I definitely think you should check that out. And no strategy lasts forever. All companies need to evolve their strategies to improve, sharpen and change, and stay competitive, and ultimately to win year after year. And that concludes our book discussion. You can find all book details on my book club website, wellreadsoiree.com. Thanks for watching, guys, and I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow when I announce our next read, which I am so excited about.